Welcome back to Stamping at the Warren, and I'm Kim Tolton, and today is more about techniques, and I'm going to be doing a slightly different version of this card. In this particular card I've used the Blushing Bride glimmer paper to make the die cut, and I've added a couple of little flowers from the same die pack. So that's the Bloomin Hearts Fromelets dies. So I did Blushing Bride cardstock for these two flowers, and I just put little basic rhinestones in them and the banner. So I'm going to be showing you exactly the same thing, just with a different flowers in terms of cardstock. But today is more about techniques. And terms rather than techniques, actually, because I will often talk about first and second generation stamping. I often talk about stamping off the page, randomly stamping. So I just wanted to very quickly go through those different techniques with you, and they're often used in conjunction with one another as well. So what I've done today, I've made an a 5-inch card base, square card base. So I trimmed a piece of thicker Whisper White cardstock to 10 inches by 5 inches, and then that 10-inch side I scored in half at 5 inches, and just as always fold so that the ridge is inside. Use your bone folder to burnish that fold, and you're ready to go. Now this is what we would call a one-layer card. So we are actually stamping directly onto the card base, and I'm going to be using the different techniques, but I'm going to show them to you one at a time, and you'll see the card build as we use them. So the first technique you will often hear me talking about is stamping off the page. All stamping off the page means is you don't completely put the image on the page, so you only get part of the image. The second technique you'll often hear me talking about is first and second generation stamping, and with this particular ink pad we'll actually get to third generation stamping. And that means you ink up your stamp, you stamp the first time, you stamp the second time, you stamp a third time. And by that time you've got a very, very washed out version of this first flower. And that means you get tonal changes using the same ink pad. The next technique is called stamping off. And that's kind of the reverse of what we've just done. So what you do is you ink up your stamp, and then you stamp it onto a piece of scrap cardstock or your grid paper, and then you stamp it down. And again, that will give you a more washed out tone. Okay? Because you're actually inking up and removing some of the ink from the stamp before you stamp onto your card. And the last one is randomly stamping, and that is exactly what it says. It is turning the card, turning the stamp, not really looking at where you're going. Completely random. And in doing that, you get a combination of all of these things building up. So you can add some extra flowers. If you think you need some slightly paler ones, you stamp off. And then you might think, oh, I need another one up there. And you can build your card. Now the final touch for me is once you have got your randomly stamped images on here with a combination of all of those techniques, just go around your edges and just sort of rotate how much of the stamp you stamp on. and it gives a really pretty finish to the edge of the card. Now you can obviously ink up the edge of the card as well, but there is something very attractive about just working your way around, even if it's the tiniest amount of a flower that goes on that edge. It just finishes it off. And that's basically the technique that I wanted to show you today. Everything else I've spoken about before. So the Bloomin' Hearts die cut, for example, I did a whole tutorial on that, just on that, so you can go back and view that, and there is a corresponding blog post, and the link to that will be in the video as well. And what I'm doing today is kind of like a white on white effect, but we're going to get shadow by popping up this die cut on Stampin' Dimensionals, and that will create shadow underneath the die cut, which will add extra dimension. And white on white is actually quite powerful, and it's a really beautiful thing to do for wedding cards and things like that. Now Stampin' Up, whether by design or by accident, they gave us 4 lovely flowers on this, solid flowers on the die cut, that happen to take a Stampin' Dimensional really well. So you can't see it from the other side of the card. And that makes them perfect for popping dimensionals onto. And when you take them off, and when you remove that adhesives cover, what you end up with is a die cut that then creates its own shadows. Isn't that pretty? Quite sublime, but very pretty. And then I've also, from the same stamp set, which is the Bloomin' Love, sorry. So from the same stamp set, I've stamped this banner and then the Be Mine, and I've die cut that out using the large letters Framelits dies, which coordinates, and I've kept it completely sort of white monochrome, so you've got white and you've just got this hint of very subtle grey coming in. So you just want another few bits of Stampin' Dimensional, and I'm going to use these long bits here. Because I don't like waste. Put those there. And then a couple of tiny little bits, I'm going to cut that one in half. Like that. And they can go on the endy bits. Take those adhesive covers off. Protective covers, I should say, the bits that stop it all sticking together. And then that can go down across the centre of the card there, and again that will create its own shadow again. And then when I was cutting out the die, I also die cut 2 of, or 1 each of the small flowers that comes in the same die pack, and I've cut them with from not Stampin' Dimensionals. I've die cut them using Dazzling Diamonds glimmer paper, and I'm just going to pop a Stampin' Dimensional on the back of those. You can just get away with a whole Stampin' Dimensional. And this will just add some sparkle to the project. I'll put one there, one up there, and then your final touch, a couple of basic rhinestones in the centre of those flowers, just to max out on the sparkle element. After all, it's for a special occasion. And there you have today's card, and it's an identical card to this. All I've done is I've substituted a different cardstock and a different emphasis on where the sparkle is. The last thing I'm going to do that I've done on here is use my Wink of Stella glitter glue pen, and it gives you this lovely, very soft, very subtle bit of shimmer that dries so quickly, and that will just, it's kind of halfway between the Dazzling Diamonds glimmer paper and the matte of the white. And that's it for today, so I hope you've enjoyed that. A little bit different today, but I like to try different things and different ways of presenting my tutorials, and let me know what you think. You can always leave comments in the comment section underneath today's video, or you can pop along to my blog at www.stamping@warren.blogspot.co.uk. There will be a corresponding link to my blog from the video when it goes live. They go live simultaneously, and the blog actually has a written up tutorial to go alongside today. And what I'll do is I'll do a glossary of the terms that we've used for the different techniques today for you as well. And that's it for today, really. You know where all my social media information is, which is in the Show More section underneath today's blog. And I will see you again tomorrow for another tutorial. Thank you so much for watching and waiting, and I'll see you then. Ta-da for now.